There are certain games in college football where we get more than what we bargained for. For example, take what happened to Baker Mayfield and the Oklahoma Sooners back in 2017 when they traveled to play the 1-9 Kansas Jayhawks. Now, by all accounts, this was a kind of a sleeper game. This was a game that no one really had on their schedule. Nobody was paying attention to this game, at least until this happened.
Well, it's no secret that Baker Mayfield has not made a lot of friends this year in college football. And this is pregame just moments ago. Look at this. He goes to shake the other captain's hands with Kansas. Baker says, "You don't want to shake my hand? That's fine. I'll take it out on you guys here in a minute." And then goes to fire up the rest of his teammates.
Just make that chip on Baker Mayfield's shoulder just a little bit bigger. I can't say I encourage that behavior.
That's all it took to turn a meaningless football game into something way more. Now, what happened? The game became personal. And when it becomes personal, it becomes powerful. And that's exactly how the gospel works. That's exactly how Jesus changes your life. He's not asking you to explain facts that you memorized. He's asking you to share the personal encounter that you had with him. You see, it's not about how much we know. Rather, it's about who we know and who he says you are as a result. For example, take what happened to Nicodemus in John chapter 3. Nicodemus was considered the teacher of teachers. He knew the scriptures forwards and backwards. He had access to them. He'd been studying them his whole life. And by all accounts, he was one of, if not the most knowledgeable. And Jesus and Nicodemus are having a conversation in John chapter 3, verse 3. And Jesus looks right at Nicodemus and he says that you need to be born again. Nicodemus had all of the information in the world, but he was missing in the encounter. Jesus was telling Nicodemus, it's not about religion. It's about being reborn. Take what happened to Saul of Tarsus after Jesus was crucified, resurrected, and ascended to heaven. Saul of Tarsus was the up and coming. He had access to the best teachers. He was one of the best students. He had all of the resources that he could need. He thought that he was doing what he needed to do to serve God. And all of the intelligence, all of the wisdom in the world put him in direct opposition with God because he made it his personal mission to destroy the very thing that God was building. And so what happened? Encounter. One encounter with Jesus changed everything for Saul. Saul of Tarsus became the Apostle Paul. The persecutor became the preacher. The murderer became the messenger. One encounter with Jesus will change you. It's not about cleaning up your old life. It's about giving you a brand new one. The one that God has always intended for you from since the very beginning. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, we've talked about it. It says, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. I know the name that I call you, Isaiah 43:1. God knows who he created you to be. And when we encounter Jesus, we trade the person that we've created and accept the person that God created, and we walk in that. And that's a story worth telling, but we got to figure out how to share that story. So what I want to walk us through is a 3-part, 60-second framework, if you will, on how to share your personal testimony, your encounter with Jesus. And I got this really from 2 different people. One is a good friend of mine. His name is Wade Aaron. And the other one is Jamie Winship. I've been reading a lot of his book and been listening to a lot of his stuff. And really, if you want to break it into 3 parts, there is our life before Jesus. There was a lie that we were believing. The second part is our encounter with Jesus. When did Jesus tell us the truth about who we are? And then the last part is our life after Jesus. How have we been transformed by the renewing of our mind? Okay, we're going to break down each one of those into 3 20-second individual sections to turn your encounter into a 1-minute testimony that you can share with just about anyone that you come across. The first part we're going to tackle is who are we, or who were we before Jesus? And the way that you can share this first 20-second part is by finishing this sentence, right? This is your life before Jesus. So finish this sentence. There was a time in my life I blank. What was that for you? I don't know what it is for you, but here's what it was for me. There was a time in my life I became a police officer. And I became a police officer because I wanted to help people. But experience showed me very quick that I can't help anyone because I encountered some of the most hopeless situations that you can imagine. That was my life before Jesus. I was trying to help people in my own strength, but I quickly lost hope because I saw the brokenness and the hopelessness that existed in the world around me. And so in my brokenness, in my mess, we're going to go to the second part. In your brokenness, in your mess, go to the second part. And that is the encounter with Jesus, right? And so you answer this question, or you finish this sentence. But then I met Jesus and he showed me blank. What did Jesus show you? See, for me, I spent 13 years as a police officer and I thought that that was wasted time until I encountered Jesus. And what Jesus showed me was that the only person who can bring hope into a hopeless situation is him. That's the encounter that I had when I was broken, when I had lost all hope, when I had succeeded and failed and I didn't have anything left to give. Jesus met me in a moment of weakness, and he showed me how everything that I had gone through, those 13 years as a cop, prepared me for what he was inviting me into, and that's sharing the gospel. What did your encounter show you? The last 20 seconds of this three-part testimony is what happened after Jesus. What happened after the encounter? You're going to share what happened in your life as a result. And that's the sentence that you're finishing. And as a result, I now blank. What was it for you? For me, it was as a result of encountering Jesus, I've been telling people about him ever since. So again, to recap, who you were before Jesus, the encounter you had with Jesus, and what happened as a result. There was a time in my life, blank. There was a time, what were you feeling, right? There was a time that, what was it? For me, it was hopeless. But then you encountered Jesus, and he showed me that the only person who can bring hope into a hopeless situation is him. And then after Jesus, I've been telling people about him ever since. I want you to spend the rest of the day, maybe the rest of the week, praying and trying to frame together your three-part testimony. Now, this doesn't have to be one all-encompassing event that sums up your entire life. I could fill a bunch of different things in here. There was a time in my life that I thought I had to be on staff at a church to make a difference in the kingdom, right? Well, then what happened? I joined the staff of one of the largest churches in the world and found out that I wasn't really making a difference. And so I became depressed. And then I encountered Jesus. And he showed me that it doesn't take all the resources and all the clout and all the platform and all the money in the world to make a difference. It takes obedience. What happened as a result? I've been obeying God every single day, sharing Jesus with the people who are around me, right? It can be all kinds of different seasons in your life. Your testimony will change based on what God is doing in your life at that moment, but it's going to continue to tell the same story. Who I was before Jesus, the encounter I had with Jesus, and what happened as a result. I guarantee if you take just a little bit of time to start writing down some of your past experiences after spending some time sitting with Jesus and asking him to show you what your story is and the story he's telling through your life, I guarantee you are going to have a story worth telling.